So you double your hourly rate. Well, at least double it, I guess.
12 times more.
We figured out a way to stop a membership, eventually create something that's evergreen, make the same amount of revenue. And I thought that would be really interesting to share some of the lessons that we learned with our audience today. So maybe we can just talk the audience through the process. Do you remember some of the first things that we did when we started the project?
I think the biggest thing that struck me when we first started working together was the stats and data that I have no clue about. Like, you created a sheet that had, how many subscribers do you get per month? How many views on your sales page do you get? All of those things that can show us the starting point.
Yeah.
And then lead us through month by month to see, as we make these incremental changes, how does it get better or get worse, so that we can kind of track that. And I am terrible at keeping track of stuff like that.
Yeah.
I have no idea what's the most important numbers, and it just feels very overwhelming. So I've never done it. And I think looking at that with you was the only reason why I took the plunge, because I remember the first time when during the entire year of 2021, until I actually canceled all of the monthly membership payments in October, I was still making new content for current subscribers, but there were no new subscribers coming in. But if you were to go to the sales page to purchase the course, the Fearless Fluency Club, you would see the levels that were available. So all the new people coming in were coming into the levels, and they're kind of testing the new sales systems and all of that, while at the same time in the background continuing to make money from the people who were already part of the membership before March. So that number dwindled because there were less people joined. There was nobody else joining, but that helped to be making money in the background. But I know for sure, if that had been me by myself, just saying, hey, I'll just try for a month, I'll just put this level thing out there and then see what happens. Like, that first month, the numbers were very bad. And I remember what you said to me, that the sales page is good for selling something that's a $35 per month, $5 trial product, but it's not good enough for selling something that's over $100. And I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Like, you don't need much convincing or crafting of the language for something that's a very low risk product. So we worked really hard to, at least it felt like I worked really hard.
Well, you did. You worked really hard,
to create a sales page that could sell it was like $199 is the main level price, and then there's a sale for people who are joining different stages. But to be able to create that sales page and then go on to create the sales email funnel that they'll go through, and I had a bunch of emails set up, but like you'd said, it was good for a cheaper product and it worked great for that. But for selling something more, I really needed to be more conscious about the flow and the one email leading to the next email, which the system I had worked great for something inexpensive, but to level it up, to use that same material for something expensive, did not work that first month. And I think for me by myself, I would have just freaked out and said, it's not working, let's go back to the subscription. But because we were working together, I felt more confident that, okay, let's look at the numbers. We have that whole data sheet spread out. It's going to be fine. Let's change these things and give it like 3 months to change these big deals. And so in the end, that was really useful to see the numbers and like know what was useful, so that when things didn't go like we expected or did, we could see that it was working or not in the numbers, not just in my heart.
So I think there were a few key principles here, right? So first of all is that you need to keep track. You need to know your data. You need to know how many email addresses that you are collecting. What is the value of each email address, right? Because you have people say like, membership is more profitable because people are paying every month. But if it's only $30 per month and they only stay 3 months on average, they're only spending $90 on average, whereas you could also be selling a course for $200, right? So we really wanted to get an idea of how much every lead was worth in your business up until then. So we looked at the data from 2020, and then we calculated that number, and then we say, okay, the day we're going to stop the membership, the number is going to, well, almost going to go to zero, right? But if instead we create a new offer for our one-off product, so we created a $200 offer for an Evergreen course, and that was the first thing that we pitched to all the new leads, to all the new leads that enter your business. Yeah. And then we could see what happened with the number. Like, did it go up again? Did it go higher than the average lead value of the year before with the membership? And then we just gradually, step by step, made changes in the business, right? So the first change was, I think what was that we changed the offer, right? So as you just said, instead of sending new people the promotion for the membership, we started promoting the Evergreen course. While in the back, the people who were in the membership were still getting new content every month. So we were not losing that revenue in the first place. Yeah, I guess so the principle here is that we started testing a new offer while people were still paying for the membership. Because we didn't want to take any risk, right? You don't want to cancel the membership without knowing what you are doing.
Yes. And then we did the sales page.
Yeah.
I think that was really instructive for me to learn about copywriting and that whole flow and get detailed feedback. And I know we wrote like a brief outline and then filled it in, and then takes me a really long time to be able to do that kind of stuff. So after lots of back and forth of writing out drafts and changing wordings, and I appreciated your detail as far as if I wrote something like, I don't think that phrase is necessary. Like, that's the kind of stuff that, I don't know, it's small, but in the end, like you said, you write a sales page once and then it's done. So might as well be detailed about it and get that kind of good feedback to say, yeah, those phrases aren't good, or let's move this section here. And I had no clue about that. I knew some of the ideas in theory, but never really worked that hard, I should say, to create a sales page the way that we did.
We changed the offer, we changed the sales page, we changed the email sequence, and then we kept tracking that number, right? The average lead value. And I think that at the beginning, that number actually went down. So the average lead value of new leads within the first 30 days, so I'm talking about the leads here now who went through that funnel, that new funnel that we built, the average lead value was lower, I think, than the average lead value in the previous year, in 2020, which kind of makes sense, because if you've been running a membership for 4 or 5 years, then you have like a die-hard group of students, like probably a few hundred students who pay $29, $35 every month, 4 years. So yeah, it's going to be very likely that you're going to have a very high average lead value, but which is nice, but it also takes a lot of time and energy from your side, right? Because you need to keep creating content all the time. Yeah. So I think at that time we were still a bit nervous about canceling the membership that was still running in the background. But then we came up with an idea. You want to share the idea with the audience?
Sure. You came up with this idea. I remember you said very tentatively, I have a crazy idea. What if we started a membership? What in the world are you about to say? So the idea is that with the levels, I repurposed. Each level includes about 5 months of past subscription content. So with the intermediate and advanced levels, I created a whole new beginner course. I'd only used 10 months of the past 5 years of content. So there's only 10 months. For the 3 Evergreen, the 3 one-off courses, you mean, that you built? Yeah. Beginner, intermediate, advanced, right? Yeah. Right. There was a lot of unused past membership content that people could buy in like a one lump sum, but it wasn't dripped out. So your idea was, why don't you choose 24 of those lesson sets, monthly materials, and sell it as a membership, like on a loop for 2 years. So no one can be in it for more than 2 years, but they're getting new lessons, and it's kind of like a downsell offer where if you can't afford the $150, $200 product, well, what about this? Would you like, it's the same method, different lessons, but it's the same method, and you can get it for $35 per month, and it can be per month, and it's a little more affordable and maybe more flexible depending on somebody's financial or life situation.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the second thing that's running in the background, is this looped membership, which I think even if someone doesn't have a membership and they're thinking of starting one, that's not a bad idea in the first place.
Yeah.
They just say, we're going to make this a fixed 2-year thing. You don't need to tell students it's only 2 years. I set up a system where after 2 years, their subscription payments, should they be there for 2 years, will get automatically canceled. They'll get an email, and they can talk to me about it. But most people are not there for 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's been working great. I think it meets two different types of people too, and you could be in both if you wanted. A lot of people are in both, where they're in the intermediate course and the advanced course, and then they say, hey, I want dripped the monthly lessons too, if they don't want to purchase the full package of all 5 years worth of stuff. So different price points, but the same method.
Yeah, I think the thought process there was that we already knew that people were willing to spend $35 per month on the membership, right? So when we changed that offer, we started selling for $200. It's, well, of course, I mean, like we first wanted to sell a one-off course, right? Because that's how you make the money up front. It's a one-off payment. It's it's like your flagship course.
Yeah.
But then in case people don't want to buy or don't want to spend $200 in one go, then why not offer a membership? Or, well, do we call it the membership? I guess we can just call it the membership. Why not offer that as a downsell? And because we know that people were willing to spend that amount. And we simply added an extra email sequence, right? So people come into the business, they get pitched the one-off course. And then if they don't buy, we give them the opportunity to join a membership for a much lower fee. And once we implemented that, again, we started looking at this average lead value, and we saw that it was going up, right? And it was getting very close to what it was before we canceled the membership. So I think that was the point where we said, okay, now we are confident enough that if we just move forward with the one-off course and the looped membership, and maybe do some email promotions on top of that, then we can be confident that we can make the same amount of money, maybe even more, taking into account that your YouTube channel is also growing, without having to create content every single month, right?
The goal of working less, success. Yeah, I think throughout all of this too, right when we first started meeting back in March or April, I implemented a new lead magnet system where for every new YouTube video there was a new lead magnet, and that changed it 3x'd my monthly leads. It'd been stagnant, not in a bad way, but it'd been very consistent, I should say, for many years. Like this, every month there'd be the same amount of leads. I had like a free ebook that I pitched at the end of every YouTube video, and then in April when I started that, so I was getting 3 times the amount of leads. And we were still trying to meet that same average lead value for that amount of leads. So I think if we'd had the original amount of leads, the average lead value would have been way more. But I've got 3 times the amount of leads due to that system. Highly recommend. So even though the average lead value might seem less, it's actually more because the leads coming in are 3 times the amount. In fact, I have a number here, a statistic I wrote out.
Want to share it?
Yes, that with the levels, so the one-off courses, and with the looped membership,
yeah,
revenue is actually 50% higher than with just the membership.
Yeah. Wow.
And that means I don't work at nights anymore, which was a big thing for me. I wanted to be free in the evening after my kids go to bed, but with the first membership, I was doing something almost every evening. So now I don't work in the evenings at all. I feel much less stress. And I know as entrepreneurs, we don't calculate how much we make per hour. But before, because I was working more hours, and now I'm working less, but still the business is making 50% more with the new system.
So you double your hourly rate. Well, at least double it, I guess.
12 times more. So, I mean, I do not calculate that stuff. And the funny thing is, like, when I first met you, I said, I don't need to make more money. I'm not in this to make more money. And I felt like part of my heart in that, too, was I know that my core students who've been in this membership love this and they depend on this and they are going to be devastated when it's over. Yeah. I cannot be in this to be like, I'm going to just push them aside and try to make more money, because that, I mean, I remember I mentioned it to you a lot. I'm so worried what they're going to say. Oh, I know it's going to be so hard for them. And I knew I needed to do it and do it for myself, this stress, and just try to make myself work less, all of that. It needed to be done. So even though I say, oh, it's making more money, and that's great, at the same time, that is kind of a happy benefit. Less of a initial goal, I should say.
Yeah.